The first thing I want to go over really quick is the most basic of info, which is how to turn them on and off. Now, obviously it's turned on right now, so I'm going to turn all the equipment off. When it comes to turning on the remote, it's pretty straightforward. There is a button on the side that says on off. You hold it and your indicator will come up with your battery and all that. As for the individual remotes, they have this little red icon on the side, which conveniently matches up to the remote. These are magnets, so you can use any magnet really to turn these on and off, but the idea is you take the one from your remote to the collar, it will flash green, now it's turned on. If I want to turn it off, same thing, follow through in the same fashion. Topic or on or off, we're going to talk about the light feature that the collars have too. So that on and off switch has a second function, You just have to make sure your indicator is not set to 0. So we're going to up this to another stimulation level. This has nothing to do with stimming the dog, but at nighttime having all black dogs, I absolutely love the feature of the LED light that comes with these collars. All you need to do if you have a multi-dog system like I do is find the coordinating color, so orange to orange. I'm going to hold the on button and tap that. Now my LED is flashing. So I held down the on button and tapped the corresponding collar. Now if I want to have it a solid light, same thing, hold, tap. Now I have a solid light. And lastly, if I want to turn it off, on off button, tap again. So one tap is going to make the light flash, 2 taps is going to make the light turn on, and the third round of it is going to turn it off again. So remember, hold down the on-off button and tap that button. Keep in mind, if you hold down the on-off button for too long before tapping it, well, you're going to turn your remote off because that's the other function of the button. So that's how you turn the light on and off, as well as how to turn the individual receivers on and off. I want to also include here that when it comes to using the 2-dog or 1-dog system, it's going to be the side button specifically. So I know on the orange collar, I tap the side button just because that's the only one that's there. But for the 4-dog or 3-dog system, I'd use the black or red buttons for that corresponding collar. When it comes to these, if I tap and hold, nothing will happen. If I do it there, side buttons. So for a 1 or 2-dog system, it's the black or red buttons that you would use for it, versus on this one, again, you just correspond with whichever color. One other note I did not make is that when it comes to the LED display, it flashes green when it has a full charge. As it starts to die, it will start to flash orange or red, and eventually, of course, power down. So that goes over the basics on lighting and turning on and off. What I want to go over is the display itself. So if you have a 1-dog system, it would only tell you 1D. Having a 2-dog system here means that, pardon me, the light turns off, that I have 1D and 2D flashing. Corresponding to that, I have a 4-dog system in front of me, so as such, it has 1, 2, 3, and 4. So depending on what button I'm pressing, it will stim that specific dog. For instance, this isn't on the dog, it's clearly right there. I'm going to use the black button. Notice how it lights up 1D. If I was to, the dog's wearing the collar, so I'm going to go down to 0. If I press the red buttons, it says 2D. When it comes to this collar, even simpler, 1D, or that's 3D, 4D, 1D, and 2D. So the idea behind it is you have 4 options. The reason why they are flashing rather than staying solid is a feature I'm going to go over here in just a minute, which is going to be locking levels. Essentially, if you lock a level, that flashing light will no longer flash. It will stay solid, and that level will stay the exact same. When you have multiple dogs and a sensitive dog, sometimes that does help. But I'm going to go over that feature in just a second. From the 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D, which again being each collar individually corresponding to a button, there is other icons on the screen. There is the M, C, V, and T, standing for momentary, continuous, vibrate, and tone. We're going to go over all the features with that. Of course, in the center, there is the 0, 0 currently. That is the stimulation level, so going from 0 all the way up to 99, then high being 100, of course. There is a lot of levels. Don't let that scare you with the collar. That's one of the main reasons I like using Ecollar Technologies, is more or less it gives you decimal points, where a lot of collars, it's not 100% comparable. Think of 1 through 10 like 0 to 1. So you have like, 0.4, 0.5, all the way up to a solid 1. It gives you a lot more flexibility in finding that right level for a dog. But going over the concept, momentary sounds pretty straightforward, so I'm going to go over it as such. Momentary would be if I was to stim the dog, it just taps it. So if I hold that button, notice how the LED just taps. It's just a snap. That's what I usually use for consequences once the dog understands things. In training, most dogs are going to start with continuous with what we're teaching, which again is escape conditioning. The idea behind it is if I hold that button, it will stim up to 10 seconds. So if I wanted to teach the dog to go back on the place bed or to come back to me or to hold a sit, the idea would be that with the dog that knows what the word means, I apply that button, say the word, and when they sit down or do whatever corresponding action, I let go of that pressure, showing the dog how to turn off the tingle. Again, to escape that feeling within 10 seconds, because there is an automatic shutoff. There's a safety feature just so you don't accidentally, bump into a counter, press the button, and it goes for like 3 minutes solid. It will only stim for up to 10 seconds at a time. But the idea behind stimming on momentary and continuous, they each have their pros and cons. Again, we teach with continuous in the beginning, no matter what we're doing in obedience. Momentary is used just for consequences. So momentary would be more of the ones we're looking for discipline, where teaching is done with the continuous button. The other two options being vibrate and tone, I don't often use in training. I will, in some cases, they do have their uses. I'm going to go over really quick and show why I don't really use the vibrate button. It might mean why you do use it. I have some sensitive dogs. Sorry, I'm trying to switch the button over. And with my sensitive dogs, pardon me, I pressed the wrong button because I'm talking. My sensitive dogs are terrified of that. So the vibrate on this collar is pretty strong. Ecollar Technologies does sell a vibrate and tone only collar, a pager collar if you will, where you can customize the settings, but that stern vibrate is set to default to be that stern. Depending on your dog, that is honestly more adverse than doing the stim button, which could prevent unwanted behavior, but I'm just not really a fan of it. I have used it with deaf dogs before too, to kind of get their attention on me, because of course the last option is not really available for a deaf dog, but the last one on here is tone. Now the tone noise is a warning system for some dog trainers. I don't like using a warning system. If I have a warning before a consequence or a follow through, that can kind of be like when your kid waits to the count of 3. Well, if 1 and 2 mean nothing, but 3 means business, then hopefully they come back for 3. In some cases, of course, if your 1, 2, 3 doesn't work and you count 4, 5, 6, the dog keeps waiting you out, or the kid does in my analogy. So I don't like to use the tone as a warning. What I would like to do for tone sometimes is find me. So if you're going to be out of sight from your dog, having the tone just mean, hey, come, oops, sorry, wrong button. Hey, come back over to me, find me. Just like how vibrate can mean find me, that's totally acceptable. But normally in training, I'm going to recommend using momentary and continuous rather than using a lot of vibrate and tone. But those are the 4 different stimulation types. I want to go over the flashing lights and how to lock the level. So as mentioned before, depending on your collar, you'll say 1D, 2D, 3, or even up to 4. Well, sometimes you want to lock your level. Let's say you have one dog that's in training or one dog that you want to do consequence with, and you want to make sure you don't accidentally press the wrong dog on the wrong level. Where I personally like to leave things in the lock, because of course I have a little bit better understanding what I'm doing. If you do want to lock your level, all you're going to have to do is select the level. So let's go just arbitrarily, let's do 13. Now, if I want to make the black collar only able to stim at 13, all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the program button, and then I'm also going to hold down the dog's color that I want. So right here, we're going to do this, hold down, hold down. Now notice how instead of flashing, now one dog is solid and 2 dog is flashing. That indicates that the 1 dog is locked in place. So no matter what I do with this collar right now, it's going to stay at that level. Let's say I do, let me swap hands, I apologize. I'm right-handed. So when I go to up the collar level, now I can do way higher on the red if I press the button, which I'm not going to do because the dog is wearing it, but the red will just be 13. Regardless of what I do, it will only stim at 13 for that red collar. Now again, if I want to unlock the level, be very careful because I might accidentally have it all the way set to 100. Well, it's stuck at 13. When I go to unlock this collar, now that it's flashing again, now it's going to stim at 100. So be careful, that radiant dial will always change, but if you want to lock in a level, you can do that. You just can't lock in at 0. So no matter how much I want to, because remember, if you hold down the P and tap that, that's going to start changing you from momentary, continuous, vibrate, and tone. Next feature we're going to go over is going to be the boost, something I don't really use myself, but it does come in handy in certain situations or certain dogs. Boost is going to do exactly that. It's going to boost your level up a bit. So let's say I have a dog set to 10. It's chasing a rabbit, so I need a little bit more of a consequence, and I want to just hike it up manually. If I set my boost, now it goes up by 10. I can do that with either set of buttons. The idea behind it is if I want to boost the black dog, I'm going to hold the black button, then I'm going to hold the other button. Now it's going to do M+, making it 20 instead of 10. Same thing for the side. Button I want, button below it, it will increase it by 10 or whatever level we set to it. You can't crisscross, so I can't do like, not that you would ever want to, but like I want the side black button in that. That doesn't do anything. It has to be the button in the one below it. Or if I did want to stim the red dog, I would hold red, then hold black. So dog you want, secondary button. That is how you boost. Now, if you want to set your boost, you do have to have a set up on momentary. So even if you don't like momentary, set it momentarily. Again, just P and tap through your options until you get to a momentary button. Now that I'm set to momentary, I'm set to 0 because that's what I want to change functionality with. I'm going to hold down that black button and it's going to pop up a new screen here in a second. Now that this is open, it's M plus C plus and it's flashing with the adjustable levels. I can set my boost to whatever I want. So I was at 10, let's move it up to 15 if I can get it to be that specific. There we go. I'm just gonna hold down that button again and it's gonna exit that screen. Now my boost is set to 15. So let's say I'm on 15, I wanna go by 15 more. Now I boosted to 30. The idea behind boost can go anywhere from 1 to 60. Now, obviously, in most cases, in some cases, you might have a very extremely predatory-driven dog. Very unlikely you need to go anywhere near 60 for your boost level if you're even using it. Personally, for me, I don't really function with the boost setting very well. I like to, again, if I have a dog at like 10 or whatever I need, I don't hyper-focus on numbers. If my dog's not listening to me, I'll just do a shoot up to where, again, that was, about 10 levels or so, maybe even a little more than that. But I don't get really fixated on individual numbers because, as mentioned, it's kind of like decimal points, especially if I'm doing a consequence, like if we're using momentary for like, hey, you didn't come back to me, let me follow through on a finished dog. I don't need to worry about an exact number because the consequence of momentary is, matter of fact, instantaneous. Continuous boost, I don't really love that either, just because again, on continuous, you should be teaching, and in teaching, you shouldn't have to be messing with the dial too much. But that's all stuff we'd go over with each other during lessons. The idea behind it is those are the functions of the boost setting. This is going to be the last part in this little Ecollar video. It's going to be about pairing a remote. So I talked earlier about how you can get a 1-dog system and it can become a 2-dog. Again, a 1 to 2-dog system is known because it has black and red buttons, 2 different colors. The 4-dog or 3-dog system will have the 2 different colored side buttons. So if you get a 1-dog system, you can buy a second receiver or get one second hand. Or if you damage a receiver, you can replace it too without getting a whole new remote. Or vice versa, if you snap off your antenna or something and you have good collars, well, you can just buy the new piece of equipment that's damaged. Now, the idea behind adding on a collar or adjusting it on any of these is we're going to set up to the corresponding button. So I like to color coordinate, and that's what comes in the box. So even though this is already paired for this demonstration, we're going to set up the black collar to the black button here. All we're going to do is first turn off our collar. So all I'm going to do is take this on-off switch. Oops, it was already turned off. I have it back to turned off now. We're going to have it in the off position, and we're going to take these 2 buttons together, and we're going to hold it while that light up green until it starts flashing green, where it's in like sync or pairing mode. We want to make sure our receiver is set down to 0, and now we're going to hold the on button and the center button that correlates. Now it made that nice little tone, and we have a paired collar. The only difference if you do it on the 3 to 4-dog system is, again, you have individual buttons. So all you're going to do is hold down that button until it starts flashing. And now I'm going to take the same thing, go down to 0, on button, and the color I want. So if you have a 1 or 2-dog system, you use the center buttons for pairing. So holding on, tapping the coordinating of either black or red. For the 4-dog, you just do the individual button. So hope that helps.